Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is a service called Portainer. It is really cool. It's a web interface that gives you this really nice overview of everything that is happening on your Docker Swarm cluster. Just to be clear, you don't have to have this. There's nothing you get from Portainer that you can't get through the CLI service, like when we ran Docker Service Run or Docker Service Inspect, all that kind of thing. You can get everything through the REST API, but I just find this to be really, really helpful and really nice. What you do if you want to install it is you go to portainer.io, and I will have this all linked below as well. Portainer.io, and then you go to installation, and you'll see manage a Linux Swarm cluster with Portainer server and Portainer agent. So the instructions are right here. They're really easy. You get a Portainer stack, and then you deploy it using Docker stack deploy, just as we did earlier. So now that we have that, I already ran these commands, so you can see that I have my Amazon box. It's running on port 9000. So I'll just show that to you guys quickly. Where is it? Okay, here it is. All right, you may have to do a bit of detective work to find the port that things are running on, but this is actually, it's running on port 9000. I thought it was running, yep, here it is. See, so you can see the final Portainer service. This is what it's doing. This is the image, and then it's running on port 9000. So here we go, we have Portainer. There is so much stuff in here. You can put secrets, you can put configuration, you can create volumes, networks, you can do all kinds of stuff. Just going directly from home, you'll see I have 2 stacks up. One of those is Portainer, and one of those is the Celery job queue that I showed in the previous video. So 2 stacks, 7 services, 27 containers. I started and stopped things quite a bit. So we'll look at our 2 stacks, because this, so this is kind of nice. So what we have is we have 2 stacks, and then everything is a drill down interface. So before we were on the main interface, and then we clicked on stacks and we got things. So then I'm going to look at this Celery production. It is telling me that this stack was created outside of Portainer, so control over the stack is limited, blah, blah, blah. It does a great job anyways, don't worry about it. So you can see here that what we have is everything that we saw before. We have our traffic manager, Rabbit, Flask application. You can even do neat things here, like you could actually scale directly from the interface. So if you were looking at this and all of a sudden you realize oh no, I'm getting so much traffic here and I need to scale this, whatever it is that I'm doing, I need to scale it, right? Then you could actually do that directly from the interface, which is pretty nice. So then what you have here is when you click on the service, you get everything about that service. You get the name, which is the name that we set. Okay, so this is the name that we set in our Docker Compose file, and this is what I named it when I ran Docker stack deploy. There's this unique ID thingy, what time it was created at, the version. This one is replicated, how many replicas there are. This is how many things are running at a given time, and then the exact image with all of its very, very fun things. And then from there you can do, wait, let me see, is it here? There are some really cool things that I've done with this interface, even not quite there. You can change the CPU reservation and the CPU limit if you all of a sudden discover oh no, people are totally abusing the privilege. Let me go and limit this. You can do that. So I say that the node role is worker. There's just, there's a ton of stuff, almost everything that you saw earlier in the Docker Compose file, and even more than that you can see here, and it really gives you a good idea of even what's possible, because there are some things I didn't even know were possible until I looked in here, which was just really, really neat. And then, and then this is what I wanted to show you. So right here there are logs here. There were also logs service logs. We can go here and we can get them. This, you should be pretty familiar with seeing this by now. This is just what the Flask application looks like when I run it. And then because I also made some posts to this task here, just for kind of the, for the purposes of illustration. And then there's also a really nice thing here, which is, okay, you can also look at memory and CPU usage, which is really, really neat. So one time I actually had a case where I had somebody and he had this kind of software that was being like a little bit difficult, and we were trying to figure out how we could parallelize it because he had like so many things to run and it was going to take weeks and weeks. So one of the first things that I did actually was just package it up into a Docker container, and then he just ran it as like he basically ran that Docker container just as a regular CLI, and we were able to go and look on here and very easily look at the memory and CPU and then use that information to discover, okay, how many of these can we run in parallel? How many can we run at a given time? How many CPUs does it need? If we increase the CPUs, does it actually increase the memory? Like all this kind of neat stuff that it's just like, it's really, really useful to have. I was surprised at just how useful I found this particular interface, because I don't think it was exactly meant for that, but I really I really liked using it for that. It was a really neat use case. I mean, you can see like, okay, here's the memory. This is just a Flask application, so this one is not going to be that exciting. But you can see actually that the CPU usage actually goes up and down over time. So probably when I triggered something, like then the CPU usage would go up. And you can see what images we have. You know, we have plenty of images available here. The networks. These are all of our networks here. You could create volumes if you wanted to. So what was this one? Yeah, so this is the Portainer data volume. I don't have any configurations. You can add secrets. So secrets are if you have information that you want to keep secret. So passwords, logins, things like that, you can add them and then they're encrypted, so they don't have to be like in plain text in your Docker Swarm file, which is pretty neat. You know, and then you can see here's the cluster overview for Swarm, and I can see here are my two nodes. This one is the manager, this one is the worker. They're both ready, they're both active. This is how much total CPUs and total memory I have. Go to the cluster visualization. And you can actually see, so this one, like I brought the service up and then I brought it back down because I forget why I did that, but I had a reason for it. There was a method to the madness. And then you can see, so this is everything that's running on the manager, including things that were already shut down. And I think there's even a filter for that. Maybe, is it this one? Yeah, so there's the filter for that. So you can see here's everything that's actually running on my manager node. I have the traffic manager, I have the Portainer agent and Portainer. And then over here on the worker, I have like all kinds of things. I have my celery flower task, I have the celery worker, I have another celery worker because I had two instances of that running, if you'll remember, in my Docker Swarm deploy. Inside of the replicas, I had the number 2, which means that I want 2 of these instances running at a time. So then here they are, there are 2 running. And then I also wanted 2 of the Flask application running. I only wanted 1 of the RabbitMQ, and then this Portainer agent is for this service here, is for this web service that we're looking at. It runs on all of your nodes so that it can give you an idea of what's happening on all the nodes. Then you have like a ton of things in here. So one kind of nice thing is that when you first run Portainer, it will actually give you an interface that says like create a user, and then, you know, and then my user is always admin password, but it probably shouldn't be. It should be something more informative. And then you could actually create other users. You know, you could have team views. I'm sure that there's something in here that you need to have the enterprise. And then you could have endpoints, registries. You could add Docker Hub. You could add Docker Hub registration. So if you want to push and pull even like private images, you could do that here. And then there's like lots and lots of settings you could use. If you want to go, one kind of nice thing that you can do is you can go to stack and you can add stack. So you don't even have to do it from the command line if you don't want to. You can just create a stack name. You can use this web editor right here, which is pretty nice, and it does like some syntax checking for you. You can upload from your computer, or you could even just use a Git repository, which is very, very handy. It tends to be the way that I do things most often. And then once you have that, you can add some more environmental variables. you can restrict the access, and then you deploy the stack. And so that is very, very neat, and you can update it, and then you can see everything that's happening from directly in this interface. So in case you haven't realized, I'm a really big fan of Portainer. I think they did something like really, really cool with this. I really like it. I pretty much use this as opposed to manually doing everything through the command line, just because it gives like such nice rich information, and it gives it all to me so easily, and I don't ever have to remember anything, and I love not having to remember stuff. So that is it for the Docker Swarm module. At the end of the course, I'm going to have some case studies, and I'm going to continue to add to those, but this is, this is the base knowledge that you need for running Docker Swarm. You need to know how to create your Docker images, you need to know how to compose them into services, you need to know how to add a load balancer in front of them and make the URLs a bit pretty, and have like multiple replicas of things in different places when you need to. And I mean, that's it. So Swarm is the layer on top of Docker Compose that just allows you to deploy all of your stacks and all of your really awesome applications to multiple nodes. And that's it for this module, and I will see you in the Kubernetes module if you are doing that one. Thanks, bye.